as we get started. First, we're going to watch a clip from 9/11 Press for Truth, and this will give you a little bit of an insight into what the, quote, official commission looked like and what they were doing. Thank you.
Mayor Michael Bloomberg of the city of New York.
From the outset, many families were concerned by how the investigation was being conducted.
We begged and pleaded that people should be put under oath. At the beginning, they were not.
Describe our city government.
As the hearings progressed, the families were becoming more and more frustrated by what they perceived as softball questioning from the commissioners.
I've appreciated already his remarks.
We have certain questions that we, families, wrote for each of the people that were coming to testify today. And the questions weren't asked.
A complete waste of time. It was a bunch of people throwing accolades at each other and asking the same questions one after the other.
Skirting around issues, not being defined enough in their questions.
It's a stonewall, it's a cover-up. As far as I'm concerned, I'm very bitter, I'm very angry.
Still, no one was prepared for what they then uncovered about Philip Zelikow, the executive director of the 9/11 Commission.
He who had the power to say where the investigation was going, who would be interviewed, what would go into the 9/11 Commission report, what wouldn't.
We have found out that he not only served on the transition team of the Bush administration, that he was a person who wrote a draft memo for the setup of the Bush administration's National Security Council, that he was an individual who wrote the preemptive war strategy that was eventually used for the war in Iraq, that he is a close friend of Condoleezza Rice's. We want him to resign.
Philip Zelikow refused to resign, and Chairman Keene dismissed the family's concerns over conflicts of interest. Nearly a year in, the Commission had only received a small amount of the documents that they had requested.
At this point, what we have is literally hundreds of boxes of materials that have come into the Commission, and we have not sorted through that.
They gave them boxes and boxes of documents, but not left pertinent documents out.
A deal announced yesterday between the White House and the Commission investigating the September 11th attacks is proving to be rather controversial. Under the agreement, only certain members of the Commission will be allowed to review classified documents from the White House, and their notes will be subject to administration review.
I mean, I'm a member of the Commission. The President has said only a minority of the Commission can see a minority of the documents, and then they have to clear what they're going to say to the rest of the Commission with the White House.
The only two Commission members allowed direct access to the documents? Jamie Gorelick, the Deputy Attorney General under President Clinton, and Philip Zelikow.
I felt that the fix was in at that point in time.
The majority of the Commission felt that it was better to see these documents rather than to take a chance of not seeing them at all.
It's a scam. It's absolutely disgusting. This is important. We cannot do our responsibilities if we don't have all of us access to all the documents we need, including what's in the White House.
And with the investigation nearing its deadline, the President, Vice President, and National Security Advisor were still refusing to testify publicly. Yet few Americans were aware of the family's plight. Up till then, the hearings had received only minimal coverage. Suddenly, that all changed.
In testimony before the 9/11 Commission later this week, and in a new book to be published tomorrow, Against All Enemies, Clark will tell the story of what happened behind the scenes at the White House before, during, and after September 11th.
To the loved ones of the victims of 9/11, your government failed you. Those entrusted with protecting you failed you. And I failed you.
Mr. Clark is the first person that has apologized to the families.
Clark's testimony provided the families with the timely leverage they needed to increase public pressure on reluctant White House witnesses.
The Bush administration will allow National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice to testify publicly before the 9/11 Commission.
For President Bush, it was a dramatic reversal.
I've ordered this level of cooperation because I consider it necessary to gaining a complete picture of the months.
And even the president and vice president agreed to meet with the commission, but with a catch. They insisted on meeting together behind closed doors and not under oath.
Mr. President, why are you and the Vice President insisting on appearing together before the 9/11 Commission?
Because the 9/11 Commission wants to ask us questions. That's why we're meeting, and I look forward to meeting with them and answering their questions.
Why you're appearing together rather than separately, which was their request?
Because it's a good chance for both of us to answer questions that the 9/11 Commission is looking forward to asking us, and I'm looking forward to answering them. Let's see.
We have to have one story, so I'll say a part, and if I get it wrong, hedge a little bit and give me the next.
I want to thank the chairman and vice chairman for giving us a chance to share views on different subjects. And they had a lot of good questions, and I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I took the time.
What topic did the commissioners want to spend most of the time on?
I probably best that I not go into the details of the conversation.
The president and vice president of the United States, don't you think they should be able to stand up and speak their own words?
They should go under oath.
They should be in public.
Don't you think that the families deserve to have a transcript or to be able to see what you said?
You asked me that question yesterday. I got the same answer, yeah.
In July 2004, the commission published its final report, the result in part of the family's 2.5-year struggle for answers.
2.5 million pages of documents. We've interviewed over 1,200 individuals, including experts and officials past and present.
And you've produced a truly bipartisan report that honors the thousands who died on 9/11, honors their grieving family members.
Thank you for creating a report that may be one of the most important publications of our age.
Commission members have worked hard and served our country well. I speak for all Americans in thanking them for their fine work.
We, waited for the report to come out, and were hopeful. I was always hopeful that we would get a report that answered my questions.
However, the commission report failed to meet many of the family's expectations and concluded that 9/11 was merely a failure of imagination.
The percentage of the questions that got answered was very, very low.
That's what they're expecting. It's nuts. It's very hard.
This chapter is called Overclassification, Obstruction in CYA.
Please shut that door.
What we found in every area where we needed to investigate, information was reclassified or classified as secret.
Terry, you see that across the board on proving that these charitable organizations, non-governmental organizations, banks have links to terror, on proving that bin Laden is behind these acts, on what plan the administration has post whatever movement we make in Afghanistan. The answer is always, that's classified, trust us. Does that really serve the democracy? Well, if all this information on which the government is basing its actions is classified.
The classification of for national security is based on sources and methods. And when you're doing an investigation where the attacks have already occurred, there are 3,000 people dead, and you're investigating the agencies and the people that were at their deaths on 9/11 and where those investigations lead, very little, if any, has to do with sources and methods and letting any kind of secrets out.
First, let me condition the press this way. Any sources and methods of intelligence will remain guarded and secret. My administration will not talk about how we gather intelligence, if we gather intelligence, and what the intelligence says.
National security was already compromised. People are dead, and in order to get to the truth, you need to have certain information.
The Joint Inquiry tried to do a better job. You know, they did try. They did not get access to the August 6th PDB.
It took us 9 months to do all of our work, have our hearings, interview our witnesses, write the report, and it took 6 months for the administration to agree to some level of declassification. The report is overclassified. That is a disservice to the American people.
There are just pages of blank here that the committee's left out.
Most of that information is classified, I think overly classified. I believe the American people should know the extent of the challenge that we face.
One question. What did President Bush know about the threat? The committee was denied access to any intelligence information shared with the president. The only evidence provided was a description of a so-called PDB, Presidential Daily Briefing, about the danger of an attack that was dated August 6, 2001.
This was held back for reasons of national security, and national security is just supposed to be keeping sources and methods secret. Now, this I don't think is the whole, PDB from August 6, 2001 either. But it's a couple of pages. But just in these couple of pages, there's only a few redactions. I mean, there weren't sources and methods for the most part. It seems to me that this should have been and could have been released to the Joint Inquiry.
There's a lot of stuff in here, but there's a lot of information that's not in here that should be, in my judgment.
And then listen, even after the investigation, there was stonewalling from the agencies when they went asking for information.
It is a critical time for the Commission. We've worked hard to stay on schedule, to complete our work by May 4. The coming weeks will determine whether we're able to do our job at the time allotted. Time slipping by, extensive and prompt cooperation from the U.S. government, Congress, state, local agencies is essential. This report offers an initial evaluation of cooperation. The problems that have arisen so far with the Department of Defense are becoming particularly serious. Governor Kaine saying he can't get information from NORAD, from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, from the Defense Department. Will you take steps so that you will cooperate fully with Governor Kaine immediately so his commission can do their work?
We've already taken steps to try to accelerate it, but we have we want to cooperate fully with the commission.
And you will?
Absolutely.
And we had a commission who we'd asked them to subpoena often and early. They did not believe in that. Tom Kaine believed that a softer hand would rule the day.
For an independent operation to look at why 9/11 happened, what happened there, what the president and the government knew, and when they knew it.
What's their argument? The White House. Why won't they let you see this? What do they say?
They don't want any more eyeballs to see their documents than they could possibly get away with.
The subpoena power that we fought for was never used because we were told, don't want to start a fight because then it'll drag out in the courts. Nice makes better, not to worry.
This was the only investigation we were ever going to have. It was our prosecution. So to be handled with kid gloves felt wrong. And that's how we felt that they were handling the agencies.
As you look over my shoulder and look directly across the old executive office building, you can see there are still these huge clouds of smoke billowing out of the Pentagon.
Early on, there were articles that talked about the FBI confiscating tapes from a gas station, from a hotel, that could see what happened that day. You know, they are pointed towards the Pentagon.
From the Nexcom gas station, from the traffic cams, we believe there was video taken of that plane crash. From the Sheraton Hotel that overlooks the Pentagon, I believe there's video from that. And we asked that they please subpoena for that video, because the only video that was ever released to the public of the Pentagon crash came out 6 months after September 11th. So we asked them to please look into that and subpoena this evidence for us, because this is our only investigation, and we feel that all the evidence should be subpoenaed.
Now, every time you asked them about those tapes, you had 3 people rolling their eyes and saying, oh, here's Miss Conspiracy. She doesn't think the plane went into the building. But really, it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with, hey, there is, you know, information out there that you could possibly have. Why not get it?
They did not subpoena for this Pentagon videos. All they did was put in document requests, and document requests do not need to be answered.
Even if they had said we investigated and there was no tapes, the tapes didn't exist. But it wasn't. It was just they put the document request down and they didn't get it. I mean, it made you very unsure of, you know, the commission's report and that they were getting all the information that you needed.
So there's evidence that just never got even seen.
There was a point where Sibel Edmonds, the FBI translator, whose case has been in the media since this time.
And the same thing happened with her and the 9/11 Commission. It wasn't until we walked her in there that they even saw her.
You know, there was no attempt on their part to try and dig deep to get the real story. Now, that was a story that's incredible to me to this day.
A former FBI wiretap translator with top secret security clearance. She was hired just after September 11th to go back and retranslate, or sometimes translate for the first time, documents and conversations from before September 11th.
Within a few weeks after I started working there, I came across some really serious issues. From security breaches to certain documents from pre-9/11 and also post-9/11 that were being either intentionally blocked or mistranslated, and also some really significant security breaches that have been already confirmed by the Senate Judiciary Committee.
We had met with Sibel, and she had told us of her story and how she was fired.
Sibel Edmonds was fired this past March. The FBI offered no explanation, saying in a letter only that her contract was terminated completely for the government's convenience.
She had a good piece of what happened on 9/11 and why it didn't, and you know, it was not thwarted. The attacks were not thwarted.
She recently testified before the National Commission on Terrorist Attacks upon the United States, saying that the FBI had detailed information prior to September 11, 2001, that a terrorist attack involving airplanes was being plotted.
There were many investigations before September 11 that had, again, specific information. However, we never get to hear these because they're classified and they are withholding right now based on state secret privilege and based on sensitive diplomatic relations.
Now, Sibel Edmonds, to call Condoleezza Rice's claim that the White House had no specific information on a domestic threat or one involving planes an outrageous lie is very strong. Can you repeat again or fill out the information that you have to substantiate that?
Well, Amy, I really wish I could come and I could have given you some specific information. And I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but Attorney General Ashcroft on October 18, 2002 personally asserted state secret privilege in my case.
I had a gag order put on her, the information that she wanted to tell the American people, using an obscure legal statute called state secret privilege.
How often has state secret privilege been exercised by our government?
They call it the neutron bomb of all privileges. Is even higher than executive privilege, and very, very rarely, I guess some people with legal knowledge can answer that, less than 5-6 times throughout the history of the United States, and usually for very high level high-level CIA undercover agents or military, very, very sensitive military operation. As far as I know, it has never been asserted for a translator such as myself.
And we had gone to a lot of, to whoever we knew in the media to bring out her story. And you know what? So many of them had said, oh, it sounds conspiratorial, it sounds like she had a beef. You know, bottom line, 6 months later when, you know, there was reports that came out that said, well, even the FBI had to admit that her story was true, you know, they turn around and look at you and say, oh, well.
She has a multitude of federal agents backing up her claims.
Did she seem credible to you? Did her story seem credible?
Absolutely, she's credible. And the reason I feel she's very credible is because people within the FBI have corroborated a lot of her story.
And there's so much that the public just simply doesn't know about what went wrong, what we had, and my last hope right now is this commission. 9/11 Commission is my last hope because I have pursued all possible authority channels that I could have pursued.
Now then they recorded her information and it never made it into the 9/11 Commission report.
There's more CYA going on in there than actual national security. It's political security, not national security. I look at national security as the security of the American citizens. Not necessarily the security of a particular administration that's in power or an administration that's no longer in power. That to me is not national security.
Of course they are.